America is the outrageously overpowered country that can single-handedly fight every other country on the globe and still win. After America carried World War II with its superior firepower and supply logistics, the entire world was forced to reckon with the fact that there was a new sheriff in town. Good? Bad? Well, that really depends on your country's relationship with democracy. However, whispers of doubt and rumors that America might not actually be that strong started like wildfire. After all, the Americans were caught completely off guard in the Korean War by the primitive Chinese Communist Army's sea of people rush and its incomprehensible mobility, which is why the rogue rocket man happily threatens the world in North Korea today. In the Vietnam War, well, America spent unlimited amounts of money and blood and achieved literally nothing. The publicly humiliated world superpower sat and watched as South Vietnam fell to the communists. What the hell happened? Why did America lose to a bunch of rice farmers in the trees? This was unacceptable for the US military, and they systematically fixed their shit with drastic reforms. 15 years after the dumpster fire of the Vietnam War, America had its chance to show all the haters that it was, in fact, still the strongest in the whole wide world. Geographically speaking, a gulf is a large coastal indentation where the ocean enters the landmass. We're not going to talk about just any gulf. This place is called the Gulf. It's a strategically important location that America would not give up under any circumstances, including war. How did America shock the world with overwhelming force at the end of the 20th century? Let's set sail for the Gulf War, the US military's redemption arc. So, the Gulf refers to the Persian Gulf and its surrounding regions. The Tigris and Euphrates rivers meet the ocean here. A fault line of civilizations, the Persian cultures and Arabia cultures considered this a strategic stronghold for thousands of years. Yeah, let's be honest, America didn't care about that at all. What they did care about, of course, was oil, and the Gulf was frolicking in oil. All the way back in the early 1900s, its surrounding nations, Britain, and all sorts of international money flocked here to dig some holes in the ground in hopes of striking black gold. By the way, that's why all the big oil countries are clustered around the Persian Gulf. In 1979, tensions were at an all-time high for the two major countries around the Persian Gulf. The Pahlavi kingdom crumbled and an Islamic theocracy went on a rampage in Iran. Simultaneously, Iraq saw the rise of Saddam Hussein as a mighty dictator, and let's just say that the two strong-headed governments were not very polite to each other. Alright, I know that country names are difficult here, so just think of it this way. Iran, with an N, is the nutty religious country, while Iraq, with a Q, is quite the dictatorship and the country that is on the other end of the Gulf War. Got it? Iran, specifically a Shia Islam nation, immediately became a Quran-thumping moralizer and encouraged the other Shia Islam believers in the world to follow the word of Allah and rise up in revolution as well. I can't even begin to explain how much their neighbor Iraq did not appreciate this. You see, Iraq was not a theocracy, but had the vast majority of its population believing in Shia Islam. Saddam Hussein would much rather not get overthrown by a bunch of religious fanatics, and so he preemptively smashed a bottle over Iran's head to start an all-out brawl. This war dragged on for 9 years, utterly gutting the economies of both countries. Neither country won anything particularly significant, and the meaningless war was brought to a ceasefire by UN intervention. All Iraq had to show for this war was an economic loss of $500 billion and an insane debt-to-GDP ratio of more than 1,000%. Well, this really sucks for Iraq. 10 years later, Saddam has a big brain moment and decides to solve the economic clusterfuck of the war aftermath with another war. This time, he picked an easier target. A tiny country neighboring the Persian Gulf, Kuwait seemed like a non-threatening blind kid he could easily punch out of spite. The blind kid also had a lot of oil. Back then, Kuwait owned 11% of the world's total oil production, while the much bigger Iraq only had 9%. Icing on the cake, Iraq owed a lot of money to Kuwait to finance its war against Iran. Here's an unethical life hack. If you fucking murder the guy you owe money to, he's not gonna ask for his money back. Cornering the oil market as well was a convenient benefit. On August 2nd, 1990, Iraq jumps Kuwait out of the blue. It was nowhere near a fair fight. Kuwait's king, Jabir III, fled to Saudi Arabia within a day, and the nation's capital, Kuwait City, was completely overrun within 48 hours. Just 1 week later, on August 8th, Iraq formally announced the annexation of Kuwait. Iraq's sudden invasion of Kuwait was a big problem for the Western world and specifically for America. This is because the monarchies like Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, and of course Kuwait were friendly oil providers for America, and Big Daddy America needs his oil. If America just allows this egregiously unjustified war, the other oil monarchies might think, hey, maybe we should sell our oil to someone more trustworthy and completely fuck the oil market. On August 6th of 1990, President George Bush formally declares that America will be stepping in to protect democracy, but most importantly, oil. No, not the 9/11 one, but his father with the same name. President Bush starts deploying troops to Saudi Arabia, while other nations like Britain, France, Egypt, and Syria all join the fellowship to rescue Kuwait. This is the first stage of the Gulf War, Operation Desert Shield. The whole point was to pressure Iraq by putting a shit ton of troops right on their doorstep. The first reason why the American military is so bloody overpowered is because it starts off every war with an infinite money hack. There are over 1 million Iraqi soldiers in Kuwait, and a few thousand UN peacekeepers here and there are nowhere near enough to face Saddam. To actually make him feel pressure because of the mere presence of troops, you need to play on the same level. America decides to deploy 540,000 soldiers. 540,000? We're not talking about marching them across the street. They have to cross an entire ocean. Saudi Arabia is over 10,000 miles away by boat. How are you gonna move that many people that far? While other countries would literally go bankrupt with such an insane logistical supply line nightmare, this was right up America's alley. Of course, America respected the physical constraints and had to be efficient with what they moved. For instance, rifle ammunition wasn't that efficient at killing people per pound, so they just packed a lot more missiles instead. Additionally, instead of dealing with the pesky, careful handling requirements of state-of-the-art tanks, America would carelessly ship some banged-up old tanks to Saudi Arabia, build a proxy factory there, and upgrade them to state-of-the-art locally. America built an entire supply line of thousands of miles to the middle of the desert with oil pipes and refineries, even providing the soldiers with TVs, air conditioning, and video games to keep them from getting bored. Iraq didn't even budge despite all the economic sanctions and displays of force. The UN Security Council demanded that Iraq cancel its annexation of Kuwait and withdraw all soldiers by January 15, 1991. Iraq wouldn't have even invaded to begin with if it had any intention of giving up that easily. Saddam tells the UN to fuck off, and America starts bombing the hell out of the fourth largest military in the world on January 16th. The second reason why the American military is so overpowered comes into play here: overwhelming air superiority. America never lost air superiority in any war it ever fought in for reasons closely related to the infinite money hack we talked about earlier. You need a lot of high-quality fighter jets to secure air dominance, and fighter jets are pretty much the most expensive item for any military except for like colossal aircraft carriers. Well, America's filthy rich, which means that America can afford more high-tech fighter jets, which then means that America is pretty much guaranteed to control the skies. American air dominance is achieved meticulously and ruthlessly. First, they thoroughly scout every corner of the enemy territory. Then, they blind the enemy by taking out every single military radar. America does a sick combo and cripples the enemy by blowing up all of their communication infrastructure. Finally, America just firebombs the shit out of the blind, paralyzed enemy that's physically unable to even put up a fight. But wait, there's more. The third reason why the American military is so overpowered is because of the overwhelming technology gap. America is literally tens of years ahead of its competitors in terms of military technology, which is kept secret for the most part. Not for the Gulf War. This is a time to terrify the world with a horrifying display of futuristic killing machines. I'm sure you've heard of the Nighthawk, from Nighthawk Down. This stealth aircraft was unveiled to the world here in the Gulf War. Traditionally, American bombers would never fly alone. they would always be escorted by several other fighter jets, also known as a strike package, that were responsible for specifically eliminating the enemy's own fighter jets and air defense systems. Then, and only then, would the bombers safely drop its lethal payload on the defenseless enemy. The Nighthawk changed everything. The stealth aircraft was completely undetectable to the enemy and required no such chaperone. Every time the Nighthawk soared, the Iraqis would watch their own expensive jets shot out of the sky. They even tried to hide their fighter jets on the ground to no avail. The Nighthawk sniffed them out and murdered them all the same. Iraq had no choice but to literally blindly spam missiles at the skies in hopes of getting a lucky pot shot. Iraq was terrified of the skies for the entirety of the war. After 40 days of merciless bombing, it was finally time to send in the ground troops. You see, unlike the seas or the skies, a ground assault is always full of unpredictable variables because defenders can use the local geography to their advantage. History is full of overconfident military commanders who YOLO'd their entire military into the meat grinder of a seemingly inferior enemy's home ground just because of this defender's advantage. So, what clever war tactics did America use to solve this problem of geography and eviscerate Iraq's 1 million soldiers utilizing the defender's advantage? Short answer, they didn't. America just bulldozed everything with heavily armored tanks. America spammed the highly dense depleted uranium for armor on their tanks like sunscreen, which pretty much made them invincible. Who needs military strategy when you can plow through the enemy anyway? America wasn't going to be satisfied by simply liberating Kuwait. Oh no, America wanted the complete and utter destruction of the Republican Guard, Iraq's most elite military branch. This way, Saddam Hussein's military would be too busy learning to eat through a straw to engage in any other funny business. So, America needs one overwhelming, unquestionable victory to completely kneecap Iraq. The deception known as the left hook was going to seal the deal for the Americans. They planned to throw a jab towards the right side of Kuwait, intending to bait the Iraq military out of position. Then, they were going to wham a huge left hook, cutting off their retreat and hopelessly surrounding the Iraqis for an easier massacre. On February 24th, the American tanks advanced in a single file, slowly choking the life out of Iraq. This was a massive operation that had 2,400 tanks taking a 400-mile detour. I know what you're thinking. How come the Iraqis just didn't stop this? Oh, they tried alright. The depleted uranium armor technology was the newest, literally finished right before the Gulf War, and nothing that the Iraqis had back then could pierce this armor. The massive cluster of American tanks, slowly advancing with impenetrable defenses, was like a modern incarnation of the Roman legion. The Iraqis were caught way out of position because they, reasonably so, never expected such a massive army to just march through the desert. It was literally a slaughter. The Iraqi military was never the same ever since. The American tanks had an unbelievable combat efficiency of 1 to 300. Let me repeat that. 2 American tanks were destroyed, while 600 Iraqi tanks got snapped out of existence. Following the irreparable evaporation of the Iraqi Republican Guard, America easily liberated Kuwait and brought an end to the Gulf War in merely 6 weeks. Just 100 hours after America's ground assault, Iraq accepted America's offer they couldn't refuse and surrendered. Nobody was talking shit about the American military anymore. The entire world watched in shock and awe at America's seamless supply logistics and technology leaps ahead of its time. The Korean War and Vietnam War were long forgotten, and America was the unquestionable king. That is, up until the complete clusterfuck in Afghanistan, of course, but that's a story for another day. Have you heard of something called the Vietnam Syndrome? Watching the humiliating fail of the Vietnam War struck trauma deep in the hearts of the American public about sending troops overseas ever again. America was arrogant, thinking that their technology and economy was more than enough to put down some rice farmers. As a result, America desperately thrashed about just to get out of Vietnam, let alone win the war. The soldiers had no idea who the enemy even was. The American public watched their TVs in horror as American young men screamed and died in agony, and anti-war protests blazed through the country. America learned from this mistake. Utilizing the juggernaut American economy and technological advantage, they incorporated good military strategy and control over the media into their toolbox of war. Morale in the US military was at an all-time high during the Gulf War because of overwhelming firepower and a proper sense of purpose. The American public watched their soldiers win every battle and felt it in their bones that this war was justified. As of November 2022, when this is being recorded, Russia is making the same mistake that America did in Vietnam. Overconfident in superior Russian firepower, Russia is entangled in a much longer and nastier war in Ukraine than it expected. Morale for Russian soldiers is just sad. They have no idea what they're even dying for. Hell, would you want to fight when your failures and war crimes are being broadcast to the whole wide world through social media? Want to learn how exactly America got curb stomped in Vietnam? Check out our video on the Vietnam War. This has been your Captain David Bradford from Knowledge Raiders, and I'll see you again in that video.